Today, I want to talk about buying rental properties and specifically the difference between buying a vacation rental property that you would rent out short term versus a longer term rental property, more of a traditional rental. A lot of people want to invest in real estate, but they're a little overwhelmed at like, which one of these is a better option? What's the best? What are the pros and cons? And so today, I'm going to give you all the pros and cons of vacation rental homes versus long term rental homes. Hey, my name is John Gletch. I'm the team leader of the Gletch Group. We're a real estate company in Scottsdale and all the surrounding areas of Phoenix. And we help people, hundreds of people every year, buy and sell properties, many of them investors. I myself have owned and operated long-term rental properties, short-term rental properties, bought and sold them, and seen all the good and bad of all of those options. So today, I want to help give you a framework, something to think through as you're picking whether or not you should go long-term rental or short-term rental. So here's what I want to do. I'm just going to kind of go through the pros and cons of each one. And then at the end, I'll boil it down to, hey, this is kind of the punchline. If when it comes down to it, this is my advice, and make it real simple for you. But let me start with all the basics. And here's kind of where I'd like to start is in vacation rentals. So right now, short-term rentals like on Airbnb or VRVO are super hot. And that doesn't seem to be changing at all, even in the midst of the pandemic and all these things. Still tons of demand for these properties. So in some senses, there's something to be said for kind of catching the wave while it's still going. We don't know kind of how this is going to go long term. But right now, vacation rentals are super hot. They're working really well. We owned one and ended up selling it, but it was incredible. I mean, it did really, really well. I'm kind of bummed we sold it actually, and it made a lot of money. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. I'll talk about some of the cons that came with owning it, but in general, it was great. We had a really, really good success, and I don't know anyone who's doing vacation rentals that isn't happy with it. They're a bit of work, but right now it's a super hot trend, so worth considering for sure. And what like I just alluded to, it's interesting because they seem to be resistant to the market fluctuations. Like the pandemic didn't slow down vacation rentals. In fact, they've gone up. People are renting more than they used to. They'd rather be in a house than a hotel somewhere. So that was kind of interesting that it withstood that storm. Now, we don't know. The jury's still out on like, what if it was a true economic crisis? Like, what if we were really like right now, the economy is doing pretty well, actually. So, which is again surprising, but it is. And so people still have money to go move around and go rent these places. But if we were really in a kind of steep recession, it's hard to know. We don't know exactly how that would affect vacation rental properties. So that's something to consider, is it may not have that same resistance. Whereas a long-term rental property, somebody you put in there for a year-long lease, those are going to be pretty resistant to even economic challenges because some people have to live somewhere, right? You can stop traveling, but you can't stop living. So I think there's a lot more stability in the long-term world and a lot less questions, which is nice. So if you're looking for stability and predictability, long-term option might be a better one for you. Now, the huge advantage of short-term rental properties is you make more money. Even if you pay a full-time manager, and that's going to cost you more than a short-term manager, maybe 20% of your rental income is going to go to your manager, 15, 20%, something like that. Even after that, you're still going to make more money, very likely, if you have a decent rental property than you would on a long-term property. They're just hot right now. The demand's hot, and you can just charge way more for renting a property nightly than you can for renting it, for a year. So the money's almost always going to be better on a vacation rental. Now, here's one thing that you have to consider is vacation rentals are not very flexible, are flexible, whereas long-term rentals are not in terms of selling. So if you decide you need to sell the property, it's kind of tough if you've got a tenant in there. We can, we list properties all the time that have tenants in them, my real estate team and I, and we can sell them, but it's a little harder because the tenant stays with the property. And so you've limited the amount of people who can buy that property to investors or people who are willing to live with the tenant for a while until they can move in. And so not ideal. You're really better off selling a property empty or owner occupied. And that's much easier to do with a vacation rental. So vacation rentals, at the end of the day, if you decide you want to sell their vacation rental, you just cancel all your bookings and off you go. That's doable. It's not a great way to build a great reputation on Airbnb, but you can do it and sell the property anytime you really want to. So there's a little flexibility, which is kind of nice with those. One challenge with short-term rentals is cash, right? So you are going to have to put more cash into the property for two reasons. One is you need to buy furniture. Vacation rentals have to be furnished, and all the, silverware and cups and plates and whatever, all that stuff. You can count on for like kind of a normal vacation rental, anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 worth of furnishings and stuff you can put in there, all the time and energy it takes to put that stuff in there. And generally, I always tell people go as high as you can on a vacation rental. The nicer they are, the better they do. The returns are better on nice properties because there's more demand for those. So our property was an expensive property. It was $1 million property, and it did very, very well. And we really shot for the luxury market, and it just crushed it. I mean, we had a really great property that did really well. Whereas if you're kind of the mediocre, crappy, house in a rough part of town, you're going to deal with more issues and challenges. I would really steer you more towards the higher end. So on a long-term rental, that's not really the case. On long-term rentals, we recommend people are in kind of the low side of the median purchase price of homes for whatever area they happen to be looking in. We want to target people who are moving their way up through life's, economic steps. So they're renting now and they want to buy eventually. Those people are going to rent kind of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a starter neighborhood. So don't need to buy furniture. And you can buy a cheaper property. Average rental property purchases are going to be between $300,000 and $400,000 for long term, and on vacation rentals closer to like $500,000 to $1 million. So that's general, but that is what we recommend. Another thing to consider is you can't rent. For the most part, we tell people not to buy vacation rentals where there's an HOA, because HOAs, even if they allow you to rent your house short term right now, may not allow you to do that in a year. They could change the rules. They're doing it now a lot. So I would really not recommend you buy a property in an HOA, or certainly a condo. Again, back to the cheaper thing. You can buy a long-term rental in a condo. Most condos will allow that. Most HOAs will allow that. So you can buy a cheaper property. Whereas you're not going to want to go buy a $200,000 condo in an HOA and try and short-term rental it. That's going to be tough to do. And the rules might change on you. So also it's more work to get set up on a short-term rental property. So, going to buy all the stuff, even if you hire someone else to do it, there's just a lot of decisions to be made, a lot of systems to be put in place, marketing to be done. It's running a little business, running a little hotel. So there's more work there. Whereas a long-term rental, pretty simple. You buy the property, you call the property manager. We've got recommendations for great ones that we love, and off you go. You're kind of done. It's really pretty simple to do that. So much simpler on the long-term side. Also, if you're the kind of person who really cares a lot about, what other people think of you, long-term rental might be a better option. Short-term rentals have a tendency to upset neighbors because you just get the wrong tenant. It's a lot harder to control your tenants in that situation. And sometimes you get people who are loud, or they're creating too much trash because they have all these people, whatever it is. I can tell you from experience, you're going to get a little more frustration from your neighbors. You kind of get this no matter what. I mean, even with long-term rentals, people, would rather have owner occupants next to them. But especially with the Airbnb stuff, you're going to get a little more flack for that. There's nothing wrong with it. No illegality at all. Like in Arizona, this is totally legal. Everything's legit, but you might upset some neighbors. And if that's going to worry you, that's something to consider as well. So I think that's the kind of the big picture. But if I was going to summarize it, here's what I would say is, in general, if you've got more money to put into this and a little bit more time and energy, go short-term rental. You're going to make more money. The cash flow is fantastic. It's working really well right now. If things kind of go sideways on it, if there's some changes in the economy, that's not the end of the world. You can sell it pretty quickly, like I said earlier, if you need to. So I like short-term rentals right now. I think that's the way to go, as long as you've got the money, time, and energy to put in on the front end. So that's what I would recommend. If you're looking for simpler, cheaper, go long-term. That's a good way to go. Either way, we've got great managers we can connect you with. And if you'd like to look into purchasing one of these properties, shoot us a message. We do this every day, all day. We help people buy rental properties, either one of these circumstances. And me and a lot of the guys on my team have owned these properties as well. So we're happy to share our insights and wisdom that we've accumulated the hard way over many years of doing this. So give us a call or shoot us a message. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for checking out the video today, and enjoy your day. Thanks.